Imagine staring into the sky and seeing flaming wheels, four-faced angels, and just this fiery cosmic chariot.
Right. It's a pretty terrifying image.
Oh, absolutely. Now imagine taking that exact same terrifying, mind-bending vision and dropping it right into a brightly lit, sterile dentist's chair.
Which is quite the pivot.
It really is. Welcome to the Nate LM Podcast. Today's deep dive is going to take you somewhere completely unexpected.
Yeah, we're definitely going off the beaten path today.
For sure. Because usually when we talk about a medical diagnosis or, anatomical science, there's this expectation of precision, like engineering.
Right, it's observable. It's objective.
Exactly. You break your arm, the x-ray shows a jagged white line, and the doctor just points and says, there it is.
Broken or not broken, it's wonderfully straightforward.
It's clean. But our mission today is to take that clinical diagnostic x-ray machine and point it at one of the most famously intense mystical documents in ancient literature.
The biblical book of Ezekiel.
Yes, Ezekiel. We've got a uniquely specific source document in front of us titled The Dentist's Guide to Ezekiel's Vision.
I love that title so much.
It's wild, right? And the goal for you listening today is to completely bypass the usual traditional or mystical interpretations.
Yeah, we're not doing the usual thing here.
Right. We aren't going to look in the stars and we aren't going to try to predict the end of the world. Instead, we are looking at this ancient text through the hyper-specific, highly practical lens of human anatomy.
And not just anatomy in general, but the microscopic architecture of the human mouth.
Which is just...
I know. But the premise we are unpacking today is that by looking at human dentition teeth, basically we can find a profound message about creation.
Yeah.
And not just creation, but the act of listening and ultimately silence.
I still can't get over this premise. We are literally using dental x-ray logic to decode a famously trippy prophetic text.
It does sound a bit out there.
It feels absurd on its face.
Yeah.
But I have to admit, as we go through the source material, the evidence is surprisingly compelling.
Well, what's fascinating here is the sheer audacity of the source's starting point.
Yeah.
The author points out that when people encounter Ezekiel's vision, they generally default to one of two paths.
Okay.
They either go with a traditional surface-level reading,
Right.
which essentially just rephrases the weird imagery without actually explaining the mechanics of it,
Yeah.
or they go full mystic.
Right. They try to find some secret esoteric theology hidden in the scenery. Like the four faces represent the four classical elements or something like that.
Exactly. Or the flaming wheels are extraterrestrial UFOs.
Oh, yeah, the ancient aliens angle.
Yeah.
People get completely lost in the cosmos. I mean, historically, this vision is the foundation for entire schools of ancient chariot mysticism.
Yeah, the Merkabah mysticism.
Right. It's supposed to be the ultimate glimpse into the divine throne room.
Exactly. It's treated as a map of the heavens. But our source brings the vision crashing back down to a microscopic physical level.
Which is such a grounded approach.
It really is. It asks a brilliantly simple question. Why look to the heavens when you can look for clues within the human body?
It makes you rethink the whole text.
The core argument laid out in our text is that Ezekiel's vision isn't about literal angels flying around in the sky at all.
Okay.
It's an anatomical description. Specifically, the four living creatures that Ezekiel describes in such terrifying detail are, well, they're molars.
Let me just pause here to make sure I am tracking.
Yeah.
Because I know you listening probably just did a double take.
It's a lot to take in.
Right. The things I use to chew a bagel are the fiery creatures of Ezekiel. It sounds crazy.
It does, but the mapping in the source document is incredibly meticulous.
So how does the author even begin to justify this? Because there is this concept in the text called the rule of four, right?
Yeah, it comes down to comparing the literal architecture described in the vision with the architecture of the human body.
Okay, walk me through that.
The source argues that if you step back and take a bird's-eye view of the text, the architecture is actually quite simple and incredibly repetitive.
Everything comes in fours.
Exactly. You have four creatures. They have four faces, four wings.
Right.
But if you look at human anatomy, there aren't that many places to look for things that specifically come in fours and which are themselves composed of sub-elements that also come in fours.
So we rule out arms and legs because there are only two of each.
Correct.
And we rule out fingers.
Yeah.
Because there are five on a hand.
Right. But if you look at the human mouth, specifically the permanent molars at the back of the jaw, they fit the mathematical and structural description perfectly.
Wow. Okay. So let's look at the anatomical evidence.
The vision describes creatures that go straight forward in a single direction.
Right, without turning.
Exactly. Teeth naturally do this as they erupt and sit stationary in the jaw. They have a single fixed orientation.
Okay, I see that.
But the text gets much more granular. It says the creatures have 4 faces and 4 wings.
Wait, teeth definitely do not have wings. Are we talking about the roots? Because a molar usually has a couple of roots that go down into the gum.
No, not the roots. The source maps this by asking us to think of the molar as a 3D block.
Okay.
The 4 faces of the creature correspond to the 4 cusps, or the 4 distinct corners of a human molar.
Ah, okay. The raised points on the chewing surface.
Exactly. And the 4 wings represent the 4 vertical sides of the tooth.
Okay, that actually makes sense when you visualize a molar. It's essentially a cube with 4 distinct sides and 4 corners.
It is. But the vision gets even more specific about how these wings behave.
How so?
It says for each creature, 2 wings are made to touch other wings, and 2 wings cover their bodies.
Which sounds like a bizarre way for a creature to fold its wings. But if we translate this back into dentistry...
It's a perfect description of how a molar sits in your mouth.
Oh, wow.
Right. 2 sides of the molar, the mesial and distal sides, to use the technical terms, touch the neighboring teeth.
The tooth in front of it and the tooth behind it.
Exactly. Those are the wings touching other wings.
And the other two.
The other 2 sides, the buccal side facing your cheek and the lingual side facing your tongue, are exposed. They simply cover the main body of the tooth itself.
That is an exact structural match.
Yeah.
It's almost uncanny when you visualize it that way.
It really is.
And then we get to the wheels. This is arguably the most famous part of Ezekiel's vision. The flaming wheels within wheels.
The fiery rings at the feet of these creatures.
Yeah, there's literally a famous old spiritual song about it. Ezekiel saw the wheel way up in the middle of the air.
Except if we follow this anatomical guide, it's not in the air at all.
No, it's deep in the jawbone.
According to this interpretation, the wheel at the feet of the creature isn't a celestial chariot part.
And what is it?
It's the alveolar socket and the periodontal ligament. It's the hole in the bone that sustains the root of the tooth, encircling it exactly like a wheel.
And the vision says that when the wheel rises, the creature follows. When the creature moves, the wheel takes heed.
Right. They move in perfect lockstep, never separating.
Because they are a single, inextricable unit of anatomy. A tooth and its socket.
Exactly. When one moves, the other must inherently move with it. If the tooth shifts, the socket remodels around it.
They are functionally bound together.
They are. The source concludes this mapping by stating they don't believe they need to draw any more parallels. The physical image is demonstrably clear.
Here's where it gets really interesting. It's as if the divine is giving an ancient, highly specific anatomy lesson.
It really feels that way.
But I have to push back here because it feels like a massive leap. If God just wanted to show Ezekiel teeth, why not just show him teeth?
That's a fair point.
Why personify them? Why make them living creatures with faces and wings?
That is exactly the right question to ask, and it requires us to understand the ancient mindset.
Okay.
In ancient Near Eastern thought, body parts were often personified based on their function.
So they didn't view the body as a machine the way we do post-Enlightenment.
Not at all. They viewed it as a collection of agents.
Like little independent actors.
Yeah, exactly. The kidneys were often written about as the seat of emotion. The heart was the intellect.
Oh.
So the text is asking us to consider the function of the mouth. Who are this host, these creatures?
The answer is that they represent the living architecture of the mouth, which sounded the words of creation.
Precisely.
So it's not just any mouth, it's a symbolic representation of the mouth as an instrument of divine power.
Right.
Like, let there be light, and there was light. The mouth literally sounded the universe into physical existence.
That's the idea.
Right.
By establishing these creatures as the cosmic representation of teeth, the text is setting the stage for what comes next.
The shift from structure to action.
Yes, the narrative is moving naturally from the static structure of the mouth to the dynamic action of the mouth. If these creatures are the architecture of creation, what happens when that mouth goes to work?
And that leads us right into one of the weirdest, most visceral commands in the entire book.
The scroll.
Yeah. Ezekiel is handed a scroll, written on both sides, with words of lamentation, mourning, and woe. And a voice tells him to eat it.
Yes. Keeping our anatomical framework in mind, the command to eat the scroll isn't just a colorful metaphor for reading or studying.
It's physical.
Very physical. It becomes an invitation to literally involve those very molars, those four-faced winged creatures we just identified, in the physical mastication of the written word.
Okay, let's unpack this. because I need to wrap my head around this. Usually we think of prophecy like a printer.
A printer.
Yeah, like God is the computer sending the file, and the prophet is just the printer churning out the physical document for the rest of us to read.
Okay, I like that analogy.
Right, God speaks, the prophet hears, and a scribe puts ink on parchment. The creation of a text is an act of bringing something into the physical world.
Exactly. That is the traditional forward-moving process of revelation, from the divine down into the material.
But eating a scroll full of Lamentations sounds like a punishment. If I'm a prophet, my job is to preach the word, not eat the evidence.
Right, it seems counterintuitive.
Why destroy the very message he's supposed to deliver? Why would a prophet need to undo what has already been written?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture of the source document, eating the scroll is like hitting undo.
Hitting undo.
Yeah, it's deleting the printed page to go back and read the raw source code.
Wow.
In this ancient mindset, speaking is an outward projection of living energy. Writing traps that energy in a dead, static object, the scroll.
Ah, I see.
Digesting it breaks down that static object, releasing the energy back into the living body. The source argues that Ezekiel eating the scroll is a fundamental reversal of revelation.
So he is uncreating the word. He's taking the ink and parchment, the physical, dead manifestation of the word, and grinding it up with his cosmic molars.
Returning it to a state before it was ever written down.
He's removing the intermediaries.
Exactly. A written word is, by definition, a secondary artifact. It's an echo of the original spoken word.
It's separated from the speaker.
Right. And the source posits that to truly hear the hidden one, you have to get past those echoes.
You have to clear the room.
In a place where only God and his throne remain, there is room to hear more clearly, precisely because you are outside the noise of the physical world.
So the text must be consumed and nullified.
Yes, so the prophet can hear the original voice without the static of the material getting in the way.
That completely shifts how we view the act of consuming a text. It's not about gaining knowledge by swallowing a book to get smarter.
No, not at all.
It's about clearing the channel. It's about removing the static. And the source document frames this in a really profound way.
It calls this act of eating the scroll the biggest form of repentance.
It is a metaphysical kind of repentance.
Right, because we usually think of repentance as turning around, or feeling sorry for a mistake, or changing one's behavior.
And a moral correction.
Exactly, but here it is taken to its absolute logical extreme. Repentance here means returning the created world back to the place where it was created.
By consuming the scroll, Ezekiel is actively annulling all the influence of intermediaries between humanity and the divine source.
The scroll itself is the intermediary.
A language, the alphabet, the ink, the cultural context of the writing, it's all standing between him and the pure source.
It's all static.
So by chewing it up, he's wiping the slate completely clean. And that has a massive observable effect on his behavior, right?
Oh, a huge effect.
Because if eating the scroll clears out the noise, where does that leave the prophet? The source tracks this fascinating evolution of Ezekiel's character after this moment of ingestion.
Yeah, he doesn't just go out to the town square and start giving normal speeches like a regular guy.
No, his behavior changes drastically, and it makes perfect sense within this framework.
After he consumes the text and uncreates the written word, he goes through a prolonged phase where he barely uses conventional words at all.
He strips away standard language.
Because standard language is compromised. It's part of the world of intermediaries. So instead, he acts out blueprints of the future.
Right. The text describes him doing some truly wild stuff.
Very wild.
He lies on his side for hundreds of days. He builds tiny clay models of Jerusalem under siege.
Like playing with toys, almost.
Yeah. He cuts his hair with a sword, weighs it on scales, and scatters it to the wind. It's essentially bizarre street theater.
But the source is saying this isn't just him acting crazy or trying to get attention.
What's the purpose then?
He is acting things out specifically to learn how to listen to the voice of the Lord without relying on the crutch of standard spoken transactional language.
Because standard language is just more of that static. He just went through the trouble of chewing up and destroying.
Exactly. He has to become a living physical blueprint. He is relearning how to receive communication from a place of zero intermediaries.
It's a state of profound vulnerability.
It really is. He has uncreated the world of words, and now he is living in the pure action of the divine will.
And this behavioral evolution, this relearning of how to communicate, reaches its climax in Ezekiel chapter 7.
This is where the source notes a major shift in the text. By chapter 7, his evolution peaks.
He finally starts speaking again in a major way.
He does, but the format of his speech changes entirely. It's poetry.
He transitions from narrative observation and silent physical pantomimes into pure, structured, poetic verse.
Exactly.
So what does this all mean? Why does this whole bizarre journey from decoding the anatomy of human molars to reversing creation by chewing up a scroll to playing with toy models of a city, why does it all inevitably end in poetry?
This raises an important question about the nature of art and language. The author arrives at a really beautiful conclusion.
Which is,
Poetry, in this framework, is the ultimate form of speech.
why is that?
Because the true function of poetry here is to push language to its absolute breaking point in order to force a silence.
A silence of awe.
Yes. The source says that poetry serves to force a silence of awe, meaning that after all these poetic things are said, there is simply nothing left to say.
It's incredible.
Think about how a great poem works. It doesn't just convey information like a manual. It uses rhythm, metaphor, and structure to point to something beyond the words themselves.
It transcends the literal meaning.
Right. When language has been chewed up, digested, returned to its primordial source, and reborn as pure poetry, the language exhausts itself.
It burns itself out.
It brings you to the very edge of the ineffable, where the only appropriate possible response is absolute, reverent silence.
Wow. That is heavy. It's almost as if poetry isn't meant to explain things to you at all. It's meant to stun you.
Exactly.
It's meant to shut you up so you can finally truly listen without the noise of your own brain getting in the way.
It removes the final echo. Once the poem is spoken, the intermediaries are gone, the echoes have faded, and you are left in that pure space before creation started.
You are left in the presence of the source.
Yeah.
Let me just quickly summarize this journey for you because we have covered a massive amount of conceptual ground today.
We really have.
We started by looking at a trippy cosmic vision of fiery angels and spinning wheels. And instead of looking to the stars or getting lost in esoteric theology, we mapped that vision directly onto the literal cusps, sides, root sockets, and ligaments of human molars.
The ultimate ancient dental X-ray.
Right. From that physical architecture of the mouth, we moved to the action of the mouth, the metaphysical chewing and uncreating of the written word.
Reversing the flow of revelation.
We explored how eating the scroll wasn't a punishment, but a process of ultimate repentance, clearing out the static of the material world. It allowed the prophet to evolve, relearning how to listen without the crutch of standard language.
And that evolution culminated in poetry.
A poetry specifically designed to exhaust language entirely, bringing about a state of absolute, awe-inspired silence.
It is a masterclass in moving from the intensely physical, the teeth in your head, to the intensely spiritual, the silence of the mind.
It really is. And it leaves us with this final, lingering thought for you to mull over on your own. If poetry is the ultimate speech that forces a silence of awe because there is nothing left to say, think about the world you live in right now.
It's a loud world.
Very loud. A modern world that is just overflowing with endless chatter, notifications, hot takes, and constant information.
Oh,
A world filled to the brim with loud, distracting static.
so much static.
What are the words, the texts, or the truths in your own life that you need to take and really chew on until they leave you in absolute reverent silence?
It's a powerful question. Sometimes we have to destroy the noise to finally hear the signal.
We really do. Keep digging deep, keep exploring those multiple perspectives, and maybe take a moment to just sit and enjoy the silence today. Thanks for joining us for this edition of the Nate LM Podcast Deep Dive. We'll catch you next time.